To install the Motec Camera Visualizer, we repeat the steps that we already used to install the network camera configurator. First, open your browser and navigate to the Motec website. The link to it will be down in the video description below. Navigate to Software, select Download, and search for the visualizer. Download the zip file. Wait for the download to complete and open your Downloads folder. Open the zip file and extract the content to a location of your choice. We will again use the desktop for this. Open the folder you just created and look for the Motec Camera Visualizer executable. Double-click it. Like before, your PC will warn you that this is an application you downloaded from the internet that comes with risks. Select More Info and say Run Anyway. We will again need to allow firewall access. Set both checkboxes and say Allow Access. The first time you launch the application, it will ask you to change your interface settings. We will skip this for now and do it manually. Next, you'll have to accept the license agreement. You can also find the changelog over here, seeing which features have recently been added to the application. And with this, we're in. This is the Motec Camera Visualizer. With it, you have a powerful tool to view multiple cameras at the same time, create view modes, or debug your network in general. It also allows you to record video, and combined with suitable hardware, it can even replace the terminal that is used on your machine. But let's not hesitate and start connecting our first camera. Usually, once you connect the camera, the tool automatically picks it up and displays it for you in the list on top. It all automatically determines its streaming configuration, and if configured correctly, it will start streaming the video for you. With just a single camera, there's not a whole lot we can do, so let's connect some more. And you can see all this is happening without any user interaction. So the application is automatically determining which camera is in the network, figures out where this camera is streaming to, and starts displaying it right away. If you are happy with the configuration you're currently viewing, you can save it to your favorites. Let's do this. Let's say we want to rearrange those cameras. We can show them, for example, in a split view, in a triple view, or in a quad view. You can also create custom layouts with a number of rows or a number of columns, or use picture-in-picture. If you want to rearrange them, you can simply do that with drag and drop. So if you drag this view mode on this one, they will flip positions. This is a little more obvious if we go into quad view and I drag this view up here, they will change positions. If you have a view where the camera you want to show is currently not present, you can just drag that camera onto the screen from the list above. If you are happy with the layout you just created, you can add it to your favorites. Let's call this the split view. And you can see it is now saved in the drop-down menu above. Let's add some more. And maybe a picture-in-picture as well. These favorites will stay even if you relaunch your application. We can Use the escape key to toggle between full screen and setup mode. In setup mode, you will be able to create new view modes, configure new cameras, and display them accordingly. In full screen mode, you will only be able to see your view mode or toggle between the different already created view modes. Tapping on the screen once using your touchscreen or your mouse pointer will show this menu. If not used, it will hide again. If you prefer it permanently pinned, you can pin it and it will no longer disappear. This could be the view you're using in your cockpit of your vehicle, or just in general a view that helps you monitor your camera system. On the lower half of the screen, you can see some advertisement and the information that you're currently just running a test version of the application. To activate your product, reach out to Motec and get a valid license key for the application. Once obtained, navigate to the settings menu and paste your activation key into the activation key box. Once done and closed out of the settings, you will see that the advertisement has been removed and you can now use the application with the digital video recorder in full screen without any visual disturbance. For the application to work correctly, it is essential that you are working with a valid network configuration. The Motec Camera Visualizer can help you identify configuration problems and resolve them automatically for you. For example, in the list up here, we can see a list of all the cameras currently connected to this computer. It has detected two cameras with an invalid network configuration. First, on camera 2, which is the camera with IP address 83, it has detected that the streaming IP is configured to a different device than itself. We can resolve this problem by selecting the repair button on the right. If we click on it, it warns us that this will make permanent changes to our camera's configuration, and we should only continue if we're okay with that. In this case, we are. The application will now reconfigure the camera to stream to itself, and we can see immediately down here the streaming appeared. Now, there is two cameras that are streaming to port 8886, which results in one port being blocked and the other one being unable to decode the camera stream. There can never be two cameras that are streaming to the same port on your computer. To resolve this problem, we can just select the repair button again, which will reconfigure one of the cameras to use a different streaming port, which results in all cameras being displayed correctly. Another really helpful feature of the Motec Visualizer is to record video and take screenshots. Let's switch into full screen for that. If you tap the screen over an image view or you hover over it with your mouse, a record and screenshot function will appear. Clicking on the screenshot functionality will take a single picture and save it to your hard drive. Selecting record will start a recording, and this recording will run until we select record again. Those files are now being saved on my hard drive and can be viewed. Here we go, that's the screenshot. And if we open the video file, we can also see that the file is being loaded successfully. Let's toggle back to our setup and go to the settings. Scrolling down a little bit, we can find that there are some settings related to video recording. First of all, we can select whether the vehicle driver even has the option to record in the first place. If this is disabled, the buttons I just showed you are no longer present. You can also select in which quality the image is being recorded. The further you move the slider on the right, the better the recording quality it gets. The further you move it to the left, the worse it gets. But on the other hand, this then saves a lot on hard drive space. You can also select where videos are being stored. Per default, this will be your videos folder. Let's say you don't want the driver to manually start the videos, but you still want the surrounding scene to be recorded constantly. What you can now do if you paid for the license of the Motec Camera Visualizer is use the digital video recorder. Let's do this. Let's just clean this up a little bit and remove all existing favorites. And create a new view, let's say something like this. And we will add the DVR functionality for the first and second camera now. We will save it to our favorites. Let's call it DVR test. And relaunch the application. Now every time you select this view mode or you restart the application, it will automatically start recording the stream from those cameras. Let's do this. You can see, while on the right we have the option to manually start a recording or take a screenshot, we can no longer do that on the left, but rather we have a small red dot indicating that the digital video recorder is currently running. The digital video recorder will always record chunks of 60 seconds and store them on your hard drive. This is a rolling buffer you can configure. Let's go back to the settings. We can decide how many minutes of video we want to have recorded before the first video is being overwritten. We can also configure which frame rate is being used for video recording. Again, lower frame rate will save some bandwidth, but of course we will lose some information in the recording process. Let's switch to our Explorer again, where we can see that while we were talking, the first recordings have been created. This will loop until we have reached the amount of minutes configured in the setting, and then the first video will be deleted. If you want, you can customize the Motec Camera Visualizer to meet your needs. For example, if you select View, you can decide if you want the image to fill the screen or if you want to display it in its natural aspect ratio. If you unselect Stretch, you can see that the image is no longer being stretched to fill the screen, but rather displayed normally. If you use the unstretched view, you can also choose to blur the background. However, this is only recommended if your CPU is powerful enough to support it. If you want, you can choose if you want to have those blue borders in between the different camera views. You can uncheck that, and now the camera fill the entire screen without any visible borders. You can decide whether you want notifications to be shown or not. Notifications will be sent to you if, for example, a camera disconnects. Let's simulate that. I unplugged 3 of the cameras and we get notifications on the bottom telling us that some of the cameras disconnected. A touch-optimized interface helps you hide certain overlays if you're not using a mouse cursor. The freeze detection will show if the image is frozen or not. Always on top will make sure that no other application can overlap the Motec Camera Visualizer. And lastly, we have our bandwidth warning. If you are using a 100 megabit network, I recommend you set it to fast Ethernet. There's multiple options. Either you choose none, which doesn't give you any warning whatsoever. Auto, if you want the application to automatically determine what speed you're currently running at. Ethernet, if you're running a 10 megabit network connection. Fast Ethernet, if you're running a 100 megabit network connection. And gigabit, if you're running a gigabit network connection. Let's say, for example, we use fast Ethernet. Then the application will give us a warning because we have exceeded our total bandwidth. I am using a gigabit configuration, so I'll select that. And the warning will disappear. This warning is really helpful if you're trying to push the limits of what is possible with the switch you're using or the network in general. Up here on the layout, you can again choose the layouts that we've viewed before. With devices, you can manually add a camera. So let's say you want to integrate a third-party camera that is not supported. Then you can still connect it if you manually configure the camera and add it manually. You can do that by entering its IP address, its streaming port, a camera name, and, if needed, a streaming IP. However, you only need to enter a streaming IP if you're using multicast streaming. Otherwise, you can just keep that field as is. Lastly, in the settings menu, we can find some of the toggles that we've seen before, just repeated for you in a clear overview. Another very interesting setting is the color theme. Let's say you have a company with a red logo. You can paste your company brand color in this text box. This is ARGB, which means alpha, red, green, blue. So alpha will stick to full alpha and replace it with a red frame. So that would be full red, no green, and no blue. Once we confirm, we can see that the application has now turned red, matching your corporate identity. This also applies to the borders. I hope this was helpful and you learned a little bit more about the Motec ecosystem. Thank you for your time, and I will see you next time.